Actually, maybe we can link it to an article you wrote, I think last year, which were people are the new platforms. Like, has that view changed, or do you still have that same belief with regards to what Rika and LDF just said?
Okay, also shout out to Jordan for knowing exactly what David wrote a year ago.
I don't
Very
remember what
impressive.
yeah, what was that about? Can you
Yeah,
summarize?
David's like, remind me.
I need to go to ChatGPT, yeah, figure out like what is
Can
this
pull
beef?
you a couple quotes. Not the best quote, although the content is good, but it is a quote from Mark Zuckerberg that says, I would hope that in the future, the organizing principle will be you, your identity, your stuff, your digital goods, your connections, and then you'll be able to pretty seamlessly go between different experiences and different devices on that. And you go on and talk about how like the people are really the real intermediary. Basically, it's all about the people. Let's simplify it as that. It's all about the people, which is kind of where Reka and LDF are going about. If you left the party, whether you're digital native or not, whether you're in crypto, I'm oversimplifying your article, but that's kind of the general idea that was behind
Yeah, thank you for summarizing for me.
it.
I actually reread it a few days ago because I just put out a piece called the Proto App Thesis, which is in many ways a sequel to people that are in the new platforms, and last week. So yeah, the thesis is pretty close, but has probably evolved a bit as I go into a Proto App Thesis, where I really talk about how my belief is that the apps of the future will look like protocols for anybody to be able to build on top of. What unites, I think, these two pieces is kind of like a Roblox vision of the world where everyone can be a builder, and like ultimately you can build any tool, and then anyone can use that tool to build their own tools as well. And so it's like a Lego kit where you're building Legos, if that makes sense. I think a lot of times it's like, devs have been really the core users for almost everything in crypto to date. Like even if you're looking at Blur, right, and the incredible transaction volume, or MEV, it's like it's people who are figuring out how to create bots and how to game the system, etc. And I actually think, there's people get angry about this, like we're only building for ourselves. There's no real world use cases. It's just devs. But I think this is just like a premonition of things to come, like creating this world where anybody can get in and start operating. And right now it's just like there's a lot of friction to doing that because it's not no code, right? Like right now, only devs are really the ones who know how to operate these systems and build those things. But like long term, I think we're building a way where everybody in some ways can be a dev without realizing it. Like one thing I'm proud of with Jokerace and what we build is it's a no code smart contract deployment tool. Now we never say that and we never advertise that. But when you create a contest, you're actually setting parameters for a smart contract that you are deploying to whatever chain you're connected to. We're letting you become a dev, basically, right? And so I think like, yeah, like this thesis that anybody can create their own things, especially in the world of ChatGPT, where it's easier than ever for people to just go and create. LDF, I think, is just like one of the best examples of just like a kind of solo creator who just like hacks together new projects every other week and throws them out there. Like that's really something that wasn't even possible 5 or 10 years ago, and crypto really helped enables, I think, as well.
Someone, I think it was Kames actually, who works on District Labs. He deemed these people, I've been calling us like code adjacent, but he called them experience architects. And I love that because it really is more about, I think, shifting from like these end users being passive consumption to like actually being able to create things. Like to your point, David, only developers have been able to put digital experiences together until there was 1, 2, maybe 3 no code tools that we had to choose from. And it was basically like, if you don't use those, good luck. And so now it is really cool to see the infrastructure get to a place where we really do need to see people being creative and actually setting these parameters and having opinions about what they are trying to accomplish, whether that is an event they're trying to put on, whether that is a podcast that they're trying to coordinate guests for, like whatever these communities are organizing around. We need technology to meet those needs. And so it's really fun to now start to see that play out. And I'm starting to hear it shift from infrastructure providers to recognize that value.
Maybe recap before you bounce back on that. There was a recent tweet by like Brian Armstrong from CEO of Coinbase, and he talks about the 10 ideas that he's the most excited about. We're not going to name them all, but I wanted to kind of ask you guys, like, and David started touching on this, like, what are you excited about in the space? I mean, you can talk first of all with identity and reputation, but you can also go on any other topic. Like, what are you the most looking forward to? And I'll give a couple examples. He mentioned on-chain reputation, on-chain ads, decentralized LinkedIn. So do you have these similar kind of ideas, or you're like, nah, I want something way more creative, I want something? So feel free to share what you're excited about in the space, present or future.
I think for future, that I don't know if anyone's doing right now, maybe, is I think the most similar thing out there right now is Yup. But I feel like it's still such a major issue that we only use Twitter. Decentralized social is growing, but it's, we all know how that using that is, and it really is about your network that's on there, and that takes a while to grow there. So I think alongside of actually both identity and reputation, something that would be super interesting to see is the distribution of content and also the gathering and the summary of content. So getting targeted content better, kind of in a way how TikTok is doing with an algorithm and a lot of other sites are doing with the algorithms, but ideally those would not be closed and strictly only for that platform, but this data could live underneath these applications so that it can be used all over. So whenever I try to use a new decentralized social app that has something better than the previous one, I don't need to build my full interest and network all over again. I can just port, and the algorithm's already trained somewhat, and I can just enjoy the experience and the type of content that lives on that platform and the network as well. But the training would not have to be done. And also along this kind of, since there would be a layer underneath, distribution of the certain content would be much easier ideally. So if it's a text-based or video-based, it could go into different platforms. Right now, it's a major pain point to participate in multiple platforms at the same time meaningfully and distribute your words, your creations, your content there. So I think these kind of relate to each other, and it very much relates to storage, identity, and reputation, and social networks, and all of these at once. And I'd love to see this happen. Privacy is really important here, and ownership of our identity, but that's a different question. But this is the most exciting thing to me, and I think how we might be able to create a new paradigm of apps that are actually more interesting and valuable than the Web2 ones.
About our financial system